Welcome to lesson number 11. In this one we're going to be looking at formatting data. To do this I want to add a new worksheet. So we remember that we go to the plus and I simply click on the plus and a new tab will appear. We don't want to use sheet 1, so I'm going to double click and I'm going to change that to formatting data, simply to tell us what's going on. And then what I'm going to do is simply put some data in here. Let's do the ones I used from before. The two words cat and dog. Now what I can do here is do things that we've probably experienced in other programs. For example, I can choose the word cat and I can change the font face. I can change the font size. I can make things bold, italicized, underline, alter the underline to double underlined. I can change the font color or choose a new color. I can use these buttons to make the font larger or smaller in steps. It's worth noting with underline that underline really shouldn't be something you use because it makes the text harder to read. Underline comes from the time of typewriters when underlining was the only thing we could do. If any of you remember the typewriter, it used to be that you used to have to push the carriage back slightly, hold down the shift key, press the underline and hammer hard to create the only form of emphasis we had. You might have wanted to roll it back and just type over the words, but you ended up with blurred, not bold text. So underlining is something you should resist. Similarly with italics, it looks very nice, but for certain people, particularly people with quite profound dyslexia, will find italicization much harder to read. So unless it's really important, it's worth not having it. If the spreadsheet's for your own use and you don't have any interference with it, then use it. But otherwise I wouldn't bother. So we can change the format of the font simply by clicking on the text. Now there's not a lot more I can do with that. One of the other things we might want to pay attention to is in the previous lesson we looked at the number option and now we're looking at the font option, and we're going to look in a moment at the alignment option. So if I look at these, I can see there's one thing all three of these have got in common and several of the others do. There's this little symbol in the bottom right hand corner. When I move my mouse over top, I get a bit of a help box pop up, tells me what I could do. That thing in the brackets is telling me shortcuts, the control key on the keyboard, holding the shift key on the keyboard and pressing F. But at the moment I'm just going to click on it. When I do so, I get this box come up. Now you can see I can change the font here. I can make it regular, italic, bold, bold italic. I can change the font size. I can change the underline and use actually slightly different options. I can change the colors. I can even choose strike through that will put a line through. I can make it superscript so it goes up. Super means to go up like Superman. Or I could choose subscript, which moves it down. Sub meaning below. So I can actually alternate between the two, so I can have text up high or text down low, and that will work quite effectively. But I'm going to leave that for the moment. So I can use that. You'll notice I have more tabs here, and these actually relate to some of the other things. We've got the border tool on the font menu, and there's the border tool that we saw before. We've got the bucket here, and that relates to this menu here. We've got the number, and we've seen that before here. And we've got the alignment, which is something we're going to look at in a moment. I'm just going to click cancel. Okay, so let's just have a look at something else we can do. So I'm going to put x2. Now that might look a little bit odd, but hopefully you'll remember x squared from your time at school, or you might have used it recently or any other time. But that's clearly not what I've got here. Now I'm going to use the formula bar just to get up to the text here. Another way of representing this is to use the caret symbol. That is holding the shift key down and then tapping the 6, the key with number 6 on it, and you'll get the caret symbol. And that's a symbol used in computing frequently to mean to the power of. So that means x squared. But it certainly doesn't mean x squared as we learnt it. It's just a little bit confusing. Now I've been using the formula bar, but I could simply just double click in the cell and I can edit it there. So I'm going to get rid of the caret symbol, and instead I'm going to hold down the shift key while I've got that flashing line. That flashing line is called the cursor, and while that cursor is flashing, I'm going to hold down the shift key. I'm going to press my arrow key that's on my keyboard towards the right, and I've selected that too. Now look at this menu bar, look at the toolbar. So many of the options are grayed out. That means we can't access them. But notice with the font one, not only can I access it, but I have this item here. I'm going to click, and we've got the menu we saw just a minute ago. Notice all the other options have gone. I've just got the font. But this allows me to then choose the superscript, for example, and click OK, and then click away, and now I've got the x squared we're used to seeing. Similarly, I could do a similar thing with y2, but maybe I want this to be marked as a second character, so instead of doing superscript, I do subscript and click on OK, and now I get that as well. So I can use the font tool on individual characters within the cell as well as for the whole cell itself. Notice how my characters at the moment are on the left hand side of the cell. I can change that. I can tell it to appear on the right hand side by using this alignment tool, which is right align. I can click on the middle one, and that's called center, and that will put them in the dead center of the cell. I can do something else. We clearly have got these here, but I might need to build a bit of space for you to see. So I'm going to select these two rows. I'm going to pull the cells down 50 pixels each. And now you can see that the text is at the bottom of each of the cells. So I'm going to select them, and I'm going to tell it to be centered. So that is vertical centering. And obviously I can also tell it to be at the top. I can do that individually, obviously, but sometimes it's nice to do it on both. There are other things I can do. For example, we're used to the idea now that when I put some text in, the text runs past the cell. And we're used to the idea that I can double click there and now it extends to the cell. But I can also use the symbol here to control the direction of the text. At the moment it's running horizontally, but I could decide that I want to run it vertically. And again, double click and it will fit the text in. I might decide that that's really difficult to read, so I'm going to rotate the text or rotate the text the other way. So I can do a number of things with this text. I can just start rotating it. I can go clockwise or counterclockwise. And obviously I can choose the format symbol, and let me just go back to that at the bottom, format cell alignment, and we should be used to the idea that this bottom option invariably opens up a menu, and this is the menu we glanced at momentarily before, and here I can tell it to center horizontally, or put it at the bottom of the cell, the center of the cell. I can even change the direction of the text to anything I would like it to be. I can alter it to all I like. Now if I've done something and I don't want to have that, maybe I don't like that and now I'm stuck, I'm going to introduce you to your best friend ever, and that's this button here. This button here is the undo button. Rather than go back and alter everything, I can simply click on that and it will restore me back to the last state. If I've done lots of errors, I can keep clicking on that and it will walk me through each of my errors until I get back to where I started. And if I've done many errors, it's recorded everything I've done since I opened the spreadsheet. So there's lots of things. Sometimes I might have undone something and then wished I hadn't. So there is a redo button that will put everything back to where we were. So what else have we got here? Well, we can increase indentations. So let's take this cell, let's widen this out nicely. Let's put these to the left hand side. Remember, I want these to be auto-filled. I'm going to choose the whole sheet. I'm going to go down here. I'm simply going to double click, and so everything alters to its contents. What I'm going to do here is tell that to indent. Indent just pushes in by roughly 4 spaces, and I can keep indenting, or I can remove the indent, decrease the indent. So I can do that with any text. If I've got a wide enough area, I can create indentations. Okay, only 2 more buttons on the alignment time to look at. So let's have a brief look at these. So this is some text. And what I'm going to do is click on that, and I've clicked on this wrap text button. Just to show that again, I've clicked on the wrap text button. Nothing has happened. But let me now shrink the cell down. All I've got is the word sum. Again, nothing seems to have happened. But now if I double click on there, the text is wrapped down through the box. Just to show the effect without wrap text, that's it without, that's it with. And it's automatically recognizing that it now needs to widen the cell for me. So I can simply change the wrap and wrap text within the cell. The last option here is this merge and center. Now there's a number of options here you might want to look at, but at the moment let's just look at the one that we've got by default. Now I've got a sentence here and it runs over more than one cell, and I could simply widen the cell. But there are times when I've got data around here that I can't just widen the cell because that will make other data out of line. So sometimes it's useful for me to be able to select the cells. Remember, that's click, hold the mouse button down and drag, then let go. I can tell it to merge and center, and that one cell, those 3 cells have now become one single cell. Now the center part simply means that when I widen these, the text will remain in the center. I can change that by using these buttons here. But merge and center allows me to merge more than one cell into a single cell. If I click on merge and center again, it returns me back to where I was with this piece of text in that one cell there. So in this lesson, we've looked at how to format text and how to do alignment for that text, and that's quite a lot. So I'll leave you with that, and in the next lesson we're going to be looking at something called autofill, creating a series.